The choice is like this, you can have a society which is like a manicured garden and you need a gardener to take care of it every day, to trim you into place every day. Or you can have a society which is like a forest, which will anyway last for 1,000,000 years without anybody's care or concern. So we are like that, we are a jungle.
Right.
And no tending is needed, nobody needs to manage us, we somehow go on.
The problem we seem to have these days is that there are some people who are coming into our jungle and trying to turn it into a manicured garden, into a garden of their design and of a particular shape which admits no other shapes, which is where I think the pluralism debate starts.
Hello and welcome. Rarely do I have an opportunity to have such a wonderful, inspirational group to chat with. Sadhguru, a man who's taken India by storm with your brilliance. You are diversity personified, so we'll be talking about your pluralism. Has no religion, has never prayed to God in his life.
Not to anybody else.
Or to anybody else. Malvika, an absolute inspiration for all of us. God bless you. And I hope that you will put these gentlemen in their place during the course of the next 1 hour. Sashi Tharoor, perhaps the most articulate, not only politician, person that I've ever heard, ranging from all kinds of topics, and we shall test you today on pluralism and diversity. And you better be as good as you are on the British. And Dietrich, you know Melina Dietrich, that's his sister. You'll be so lucky. He's a professor and has studied India for just, South Asia, for just 40 years. So he knows more than all of us put together and is certainly less biased than all of us. Can I start with you, Sadhguru? You've just been traveling around India, you've 1 month on the road. Tell us your experience about the pluralism in this short period of India, that you've been around India. What have you learned?
Namaskaram to everyone. When we say plural, generally people are understanding this as maybe 3 communities or 5 communities living together. But that's not the nature of India's pluralism. Because within the family of 5, they have 5 different gods and goddesses going. So, our pluralism is very individualism in many ways. Because this culture has always encouraged seeking. Seeking cannot be en masse, seeking is always individual. You cannot make a crowd seek something. You can make a crowd pray, you can make a crowd do something else, but you cannot make a crowd seek something. Seeking is always individual. This being the fundamental ethos of this culture, we must understand this, that these are more recent happenings, probably in competition with everybody else in the world. Otherwise, this is a land which has always been a land of seeking. The highest values in this land have always been truth and liberation. Just in the previous generations, if you heard my grandmother talking, not some spiritual discourse, I'm saying daily conversation, without using the word karma, mukti, prarabdha, moksha, without this no conversation ever happened. So it was so much a part of our way of living that holding not God as the highest value, but mukti or moksha or liberation as the highest value.
And any God? Any God, you have…
No, we know the
Ishwar,
technology
Allah.
of God-making, but there's never been a God in this country. All the people that we worship are people who walked this geography at some point of time. They went through the trials and tribulations that all of us went through. In fact, probably they faced much more drama than what's happening in most of our lives. And we are not bowing down to them because they were, superhuman or something. They were human but not trampled by life that is here. And today, many people say Sachin Tendulkar is a cricketing god. That's very much in line with our culture, because here, when we said a deva, we meant someone who has excelled beyond certain limits. They have excelled in such a way that most people think they're above humanity.
Right, but I think a quote of yours which describes India as a kaleidoscope of chaos, right?
So when we say chaos, the choice is like this: you can have a society which is like a manicured garden, and you need a gardener to take care of it every day, to trim you into place every day. Or you can have a society which is like a forest, which will anyway last for 1,000,000 years without anybody's care or concern. So we are like that, we are a jungle.
Right.
And no tending is needed, nobody needs to manage us, we somehow go on.
But Shashi, Tharoor, in this forest of diversity that India is, I prefer the word diversity to pluralism because I find it difficult to get my tongue around that. It is, as he says, it is India. And is our idea of India, is there anything worrying you these days?
Now
that the British have left.
I think Sadhguru's metaphor is a perfect one, because the problem we seem to have these days is that there are some people who are coming into our jungle and trying to turn it into a manicured garden, into a garden of their design and of a particular shape which admits no other shapes, which is where I think the pluralism debate starts. It is about the various ways in which people define themselves. Religion is very much part of them, but identity in our country takes multiple forms. We have regional identities, which also require pluralism. We have caste identities, which must coexist with each other. We do have religious identities and religious differences, and there are some who seem to say that people of certain religions have more rights in this country than those of other religions. We have also diversities when it comes to things like what Malvika is going to be talking to us about, disabled people and their rights, and are we ready to accommodate them in the same way, give them the same place in the sun the rest of us take for granted. So all of these diversities are part of Indian pluralism. I wrote in India from Midnight to Millennium more than 20 years ago that the singular thing about India is that you can only speak of it in the plural. And there is not just one India, there are many Indias, just as Sadhguru said, multiple ways of experiencing India, of the reality of India, the history of India.